The BBC has reported that Iran has removed the core of its Arak nuclear reactor and filled it with cement. Now, this information, it originally was reported by Iran's Fars news agency, and it's coming as Iranian official Ali Asghar Sareen. He tells the Iranian state TV, quote, "Definitely we will not apply any physical change in this field until a final agreement is finalized." Now, the fate of this reactor was one of the toughest sticking points in the nuclear negotiations last year. Jose, so we have conflicting reports. Iranian's nuclear chief is saying, look, we haven't really done this yet, but we're sort of doing it. And this major nuclear reactor site just outside of Tehran, it's a point of contention, but one report saying that they actually filled the base of it with cement. What do you make of this?
Yeah, according to the official statement, they are still waiting to finalize the agreement with China to be able to move forward and deactivate this nuclear reactor and fill it with cement. But what is really interesting about this story is that the news agency that is reporting that they already did so is very close to the hardliners in Iran, those who didn't want the Iran deal to begin with. So it's a little bit surprising that they will be putting this information, like pretending that they are moving forward with their part of the deal. And then we have the moderates, the government of Rouhani, saying, wait a minute, we haven't done so, we are planning to do it, we are waiting for final agreement with China, and then we will do it. It's something that we need to start paying attention to.
What do you make of Rouhani taking to Iranian state television and saying, look, we want these sanctions lifted now? It's like both people have their thumbs on the trigger, wanting to know who's going to pull first, when in reality, somebody has to be the first to draw. We're talking about 6 nations that are in the process of negotiating with Iran, among them Russia and Germany, as well as UK, China, and France. So we have a coalition of sorts here going on, but it looks like somebody would be able to verify the fact that cement was actually poured inside this nuke, or reactor rather.
I think, and that's why I mentioned this relationship in between the news agency and the far right and the hardliners of Iran, because for me it seems that it's just trying to bring the attention to a different point. I know that we have to be aware of the situation that Iran, the conflict that Iran is escalating with Saudi Arabia. It's also a thing that internally shifting a lot of the priorities right now and a lot of the opinions, and it's very easy for some sectors of the government or those who are influential to shake things up with with a statement that comes from the media like this, but didn't came from an official source.
That's right. So on the Iranian side, they're saying that, look, this nuclear reactor, we also use it for the isotopes in the water. It's a water reactor which treats cancer patients. So if it's used for medical purposes, that's one thing. But if it's used, for something that the rest of the world doesn't want it used for per se, we have a larger problem on our hands. I want to go through the terms of the deal with you really quickly. 5,060 first-generation centrifuges they were allowed to keep, configured to enrich uranium to 3.67% at a level well below needed to make an atomic weapon. So it looks like to me, with 6 nations involved, the removal of the core of this reactor and the final steps needed to seal the deal, this is a no-brainer. These are things that are easily verifiable, even though you have the deputy nuclear chief saying, look, this hasn't been done yet. So either it has been done or it hasn't been done. These are simple things. There isn't this muddy water. RT reported actually that the misconfiguration of this reactor was going to take place next week, but we need somebody that can actually confirm this.
And I think that's where most of the critics of the deal get their opposition from. The fact that there's not a clear way for the coalition to know exactly the timeline, the moments, and the real status of these sanctions, not sanctions, but these restrictions on the nuclear power program of Iran. Now, it's very, very important also that when we see that they are trying to take the first step, who's going to take the first step moving forward? Obviously, there's interest in Iran to get the sanctions lifted as soon as possible, and they will push this narrative that they already doing the first step. Maybe they are not, but I like that the official government response is saying that is trying to be transparent about it. Like, we haven't done it, we are waiting. So when we do, we will let you know.
Just taking this really quickly to sanctions because you brought them up. What do you make of the fact, so when we lift the sanctions against Iran and they're able to then flood the market, the global market with oil, what do you think that's going to do to the global price of oil and our own imports? You know, we're going to see the market flooded. You and I have talked about this here on the lip, and what that could potentially do to our own gas prices here. I mean, they're already low and the market's flooded enough. So they're going to be a major player in the oil game when this is done.
And I think so that is one of the reasons why the conflict with Saudi Arabia is so relevant and so important, because Iran will become one of the main competitors with Saudi Arabia in terms of exporting oil from the region. They are supposed to become the second biggest exporter of oil in the world as soon as they are able to ramp up production to their maximum capacity, immediately putting a dent on Saudi Arabia monopoly, if you will, of the region. In terms of the U.S., the U.S. Has their own problems, not only with demand, now that we got the ban of exporting oil to other countries lifted, but also the backlash with local fracking that has become such a big environmental... Exactly. People don't feel like fracking is healthy for the country beyond giving us oil.
No question about that, my friend. No question about that. Well, 6 countries involved in the negotiation to reconfigure and deconstruct, if you will, Arak. We need to be able to verify that that's been done. Iran says that they have a commitment to this deal. We need to be able to verify that they've actually poured cement into this nuclear reactor and that it's no longer being used for the purposes that it was originally intended for.